Hey guys, Ryan Dement from Chasing Happiness Podcast. I hope you guys are having a great day. This week on the podcast, we have John Weberg, and John is a business growth consultant. His story is very dynamic and it's something that we can all relate to. He's a second generation digital marketer and he escaped poverty. So he's had that toxic relationship with money that we all had, and he's going to share his story with us this week. John, welcome into the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to drop some good values, some good storytelling with your good peeps you got.
Looking forward to it. So, could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we get into your journey?
For sure. So, right now, what I'm doing is doing a lot of different things. I manage 3 or 4 businesses at once. I do consulting, obviously, as you introduced me as. I also do affiliate marketing heavily. Love affiliate marketing. I'm dabbling in the SEO game, and I'm getting into the freelance / kind of content creation game. So, doing a lot at once. Love business, as you said. I'm second generation, so my entire journey, I have had one job only. I worked at Walmart. Thank you, Walmart, for 6 months. And other than that, business is all I know, and it's all I've ever known, and I absolutely love it.
So I got to ask the question, why only 6 months at Walmart? What made you, did you have to, was it necessity, or was it something that just happened because you were younger?
It was a necessity. So when I was around 15 years old, I was trying to fuel my first business launch because, again, I came from a very poor background, and also my dad raised us right, and my dad made sure, hey, if you want to do something, you need to raise money for it. You need to find the money for it. I'm not going to give you money to start your business. I can help you because he had his own business he was running, but you got to do it on your own merit. So I went to Walmart. I worked there for 6 months, 7 months. All the money I made, I put into my initial first business, and it failed miserably. But it was a learning curve.
So I've got to ask the question because we all had it or have had it, excuse me. How many businesses have you had fail on you?
Okay, so it's a great question. The first one when I was 15, technically a second one when I was around 16, 17. So that's the second time kind of my family or myself was kind of in a very poverty, like really broke situation, like broke as a joke. Because after when I was 15, launched that first business, just negative, absolutely negative in the books. Launched the second one, it did okay, but I mean, a couple $100. At the age of 16, it's not bad, but for a business like where I'm at now, that's like horrible. So 2 there, and I would actually consider my book launches. I've also self-published author. I self-published 2 books. I put my heart into them, and I didn't actually launch them out very well because I was more just concerned with, okay, it's a really good book. I want to make the best book possible. So I think the only promotion I did for them was on like social media a couple times. So yeah, those launches went horrible. And that's a part of the craft. Some things you do amazing. Some things you do go absolutely horrible, and you just learn from the bad experiences and learn how to do it better next time.
I'm with you. I'm a 2-time failure, and
Nice.
entrepreneurship has been the best learning experience of my life. Unlike you,
Mm-hmm.
I spent 25 years in corporate America, and corporate America did not teach me how
Okay.
to fish. It
Right.
taught me how to be fed every other week. So I've had
Okay.
a little bit different of a journey in life in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Would I give up the experience from corporate America? No. I got to learn a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
financial products that a lot of people don't have experience with, which has helped me.
Right.
But the one thing I wish I could have learned during that time is to fish. And so having 2 failed businesses, one taught me how to fish, also learned that corporate America wasn't for me. So I was doing a lot of Johnny side hustle with both of those until I got my third business.
Right. Right. And I think you learn as well. At least I learned. One, you learn what you did wrong, obviously, but 2, you learn what you're going to do better next time. But also 3, I think what I learned the most is I did not know as much as I thought I knew. Like every 2 or 3 years, whether it's through going to events, a couple events, or just researching heavily on a topic, or just working on more and more and more projects, I realize, wow, what an idiot I was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And then I'm realizing now, I do think you get to a certain point of where you're like, okay, I've learned almost everything you can. You get to a certain point where it's just now maybe you'll learn a golden nugget or a certain thing here or there, and that's where you're at, which I'm thinking I'm getting close to. But yeah, I think I steeply learned because being young too, I think it's part of it. You're young, you think, oh, I'm great, I'm the best. Watch what I can do. And every 2 years, of launching this business, doing this, that, you go, there's so much more still. And I move it along much better now that I learned to learn.
And that's just life and progressing and getting yourself in a better place. But it's a lot of, I don't know how to describe it, a lot of things that happen today. We're afraid of failure, but it's not the fear of the failure, it's the fear of the success. And
Hmm.
when um, when we get comfortable in life, we tend to look at that and say, okay, is it the fear or the success? And it's really more success than the fear, because you're going
Hmm.
into a whole nother world. If The best way I know to describe it is, if I'm comfortable, I know I'm not doing enough and I've got to push myself out of that comfort zone. And when I do, I know I'm going to fail. It's just how I react to the failure and get myself back up.
Yep.
And I had a guest on a couple weeks ago, and I looked at his quote today because I'm working on his episode. He said, "Failure is your tuition." And it just
Right.
resonated.
Right.
It just resonated so much with me. It's like, my gosh, it
100%.
makes so much sense in life that failure is your tuition. And it's
Yeah, and something that I've brought on more is actually along that kind of same mindset is like I welcome it now. Like I want genuinely, you want as much struggle, as much hurdles, as much bad crap to happen to you as possible. And it may sound counterintuitive, but one, obviously you're learning from failure, but two, you're also better off the next time around when something happens. You know how to deal with it. You've been through it before. So yeah, all the adversity, just stack it on me. Not too heavy, but a decent load. And along with that too is I think as well the reason why when I was younger I was pretty good at what I do, and I'm pretty good at what I do now, that I didn't move forward even faster is because I was so comfortable where I was at. Like, oh, now I'm financially free finally. I can do whatever I want, go wherever I want, anything. Well, now that I'm at this level, I never had this before because of my background. I am really comfortable. I just stay right there. And I think being comfortable is horrible now. I hate being comfortable. You have to constantly challenge yourself in every area of your life you can, because that's what will drive you, help you make progress, and keep you from just living. You don't want to just live.
Yeah, and we struggle with that in life. A lot of people struggle, and the pandemic is really amplified it. But the other thing that we struggle with is Instagram and social media. I say Instagram. I should
Uh,
just say social media in general. Is just the whole fact that everyone is living for, oh my God, look at their lifestyle, look how well they're doing. But no one understands what's underneath all that. There's a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of struggles, and that's entrepreneurship in itself. And the way I best describe it is, somebody will reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like, great, are you willing to give up your life for 5 years that no one else will do?
right.
They always say no. And they say, look how
Well,
great everything you're doing is. And I said, guess what? I don't share my struggles publicly. My inner circle knows my struggles. My mentors know
that's
my
it.
circle, know my struggles. But at the end of the day, what I put out there is inspirational. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I will also share the truth. But I'm not going to share my personal life with people on social media. Just not me.
Right. Right. And no, I think that's the biggest thing I've gotten from other people too. Like even friends that want to start businesses, or close family members or close family friends. They're always like, yeah, I really want to start a new business. But the question, like you're saying, is always is, are you willing for this to be all you do for the next 5, 10 years?
Yep.
Well, no. Okay, there's no point. And for me, I think Gary Vee mentioned it. I think it's just generally true. Um, having a business is almost like having a kid, because it's, at least for me, and I think especially if you're actually like good at business and you focus on it, it's always on your mind. Like if I see someone somewhere, we're talking about something, there's an advertisement here because I'm in marketing and sales, anything reminds me of my business. And if it's not reminding me of a business, I'm thinking of it while I'm talking to someone. Oh, you own like I live in Minnesota. There's a lot of resorts up here on the lakes. So if someone tells me, oh, I have a resort, well, I'm thinking of, well, how much do you charge for staying there? Have you tried increasing your prices? And I start going through all the business models in my head. And that's what it's like being a business owner, is it's constantly on your mind. And if it's not, your business probably ain't doing so hot,
Yeah.
because it's not something that you're focusing on.
Very, very true. And being able to adapt and overcome is one of the biggest pieces. And it's a struggle for me personally. And I say
Mm-hmm.
that is I've always run for-profit businesses, whether I was in corporate America or not. And last year, someone, one of my business partners, threw me a curveball and said, "Okay, we need a nonprofit." Oh, really? Let me just add that to my plate and let me just figure it out. And it's not as easy as you think. I mean, you operate in a whole
Mm-hmm.
different world. And the whole process of going through a 501c3 process with the IRS and understanding what they want and what you can and can't do is just a
Mm-hmm.
nightmare. And they're so far behind on those applications, and getting the data together is like they wanted to know what time I went to the restroom in the fifth grade, literally. But what does that have to do with me being a nonprofit or not? And it's
Right,
crazy. And it's like
right.
people tell me I can't run a nonprofit like a for-profit. I'm like, why can't I? Because at the end of the fiscal year, whenever that is, guess what I get to do? I get to distribute those monies that are above and beyond our break point to whatever class we want to use, whether we want to do financial education, home buyers, down payment assistance, whatever. As long as it doesn't show at the
Right.
end of the year, we're good. They're like, "Oh no, you can't do that. You got to run in the red all year." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And it's just
No, I
crazy.
don't. Yeah, and I think too, along with that is kind of what you're talking about. Is there's a lot of misconceptions in business, and one of them is two. I think many people has is that different businesses don't. You can't run them the same way. Like some people think that, like in the corporate world, which there are factors about being in corporate or being a solopreneur, or like you're saying, running a profit or nonprofit, but the process is still the same. Like I had a stint where I did some kind of like basically freelance work. I was a sales consultant with Frank Kern. By the way, shout out Frank Kern. You're pretty dope. I like it. He's a cool dude. And when I was, um, we had people who I talked to as a kind of a sales consultant. I'd be like, I'm not sure if and I've had this for my own consulting clients. I'm not sure if Facebook's my customers are going to be at Facebook. And I'm like, well, there's whatever 3 billion users. You don't think there's a way to find your customers on Facebook or these other places? Well, my business model doesn't work like that. In my mind, at least from what I found, all business is in in foundational standards relatively the same. The practices are relatively the same. Now, of course, there's different things and legal stuff and ways to operate in different kinds of business, but it's all generally the same. And what's important about that is the things that optimize a business, that make it more scalable, that allow it to do better, and all these different factors are also all the same and apply to all these different kinds of businesses.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is you get into that whole piece of Facebook and Facebook ads, and there's just so much data out there. But the one biggest thing that I look at is, are you speaking their language? Are you speaking your customer's language and understanding that
Yep.
language? I don't know if you're familiar with it, about Story Brand, Donald Miller. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on that, and that's how I learned SEO, and I learned how to write a bunch of different things in how we market today. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I'm just the person along, for the journey. I'm not the client, so I can't speak for my words. I got to speak for their words. And getting involved in Facebook was huge for me, because I got into these groups and learning to
Mm-hmm.
hear and listen and understand what these people are saying, like in the personal finance space or self-improvement or whatever space,
Right.
SEO. Everybody's got
Mm-hmm.
language and vernacular that you have to go after. And if you don't speak their language, you can't market.
You have to apply that to any communication, any business, right? Just in your personal life too, even for like relationships. If you're not speaking the language of your spouse, there's love languages like touch, feel, uh, there's another one. I forgot what it was. Touch, feel, and hearing, auditory. You 100%. I think most businesses they're trying to use to. I think this is common across even corporate stuff too sometimes. Too professional of vernacular, and they're not speaking in their copywriting, in their advertising, in their emails, in their marketing, in their follow up. Any of, like you're saying, the same language, and it doesn't match up, and that's why a lot of businesses and a lot of people in any area of communication with spouses or friends or family, whatever, why they have so many different problems and why things don't work out like they want to is because they're not matching with the audience and what the audience needs to hear. Not saying that you need to necessarily do exactly what your, say, for example, spouse wants, but at least if you speak and communicate in the same tone, in the same messaging, in the same way, things go a lot smoother across all communication. I want to say this importantly too. In my mind, communication in business, relationships, anything, communication is the number one skill that should be taught much more. And it's the number one skill that has, at least in my own life, every business partnership, every obviously relationship, every friend I've made or kept or have lost, everything revolves around, to me, communication. And again, obviously heavily in business, but every part of life is just how you speak, the tone you use, the intent you use. Every part of it impacts people who are listening, and it's ridiculously undervalued.
It is. And it's something that we've lost as a society because of the instant
Mm-hmm.
gratification of
Yeah.
internet, social media. You're much younger than I am. I grew up with, I can remember the first original Macintosh computer because I was on one.
Nice.
So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
little older. So I used to remember all my telephone numbers up here.
Right.
I could only really thinking about it, half a dozen, maybe 10 that I can think off the top of my head that are key people in my circle that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, squadoosh. I don't have it, and it's gone. And a lot of things that we used to do, I'm not saying they're right, but they actually have some merit. And today they still follow through and flow through the sales process and life process.
Yep.
But we've lost it. And um, individual.
I think there's too much distraction.
Oh yeah,
There's so much, this.
totally. It's way too much noise going on. You can't tune it out, and it's one of those things that I was trying to figure out why I couldn't get ahead in certain aspects of my life, and it always came back to
Right.
one thing. You said it, distraction, but me, it's noise. I don't ever calm
Right.
my mind down and say, okay, what's going on? Let's clear out the mind. Let's, the cobwebs and
Mm-hmm.
everything, and understand what you need to do every morning.
Right.
Now it's a ritual. I wake up. I have my dog. My dog's name is Moose, and
Oh, cute.
we chill. He's a chocolate lab.
Nice.
He's a handful. I just adopted him, so we're going through some doggy school
Mm-hmm.
training. But anyhow,
Yeah, I know him. I know him.
so I do that, but I just sit there and I just think about the day and being thankful for
Mm-hmm.
being able to start out. But then I clear my mind out and I just start fresh, and that just helps so much in life, because otherwise I feel like I'm spinning my wheels all day.
Yep. And also, I think a part of that too is who you listen to. Like for my own upbringing, obviously I listened to my parents a lot. But as I got older and older, there was a lot of people trying to influence me. Like going through school, I'm very self-thinking. I think usually differently from most people, especially my age. Oh my God, especially my
Oh,
age. So I would go through
you're
a
a
high
rarity
school.
for your age.
Right, entirely. And I would have teachers bring me out of class and say, John, you can't start a business. Go to college. You're a smart kid. You have to do this. And I had friends who were constantly telling me it's never going to work out. It's going to be a failure. Then a lot of families started pitching in, same thing. It was a revolving door of there's so much messaging constantly pulling you in so many different directions. I think you have to identify the path you want to go on and if that path is a good path. Because often people go, well, I want to do what I want to do. And then they go down the wrong path that's bad for them, which sometimes happens. You can't help it. But sometimes you
Yeah.
can help it because you got to decide, okay, this path I'm going on. For example, for me, it was, I know I'm a smart kid. I know that I can go to college. I could probably get any job in corporate I probably wanted. Like I could go down that path. I'm like, Or I see the freedom lifestyle that can be achieved in like the online world. I saw a lot of like the Gary Vee and Tony Robbins. There's just a lot of lifestyle travel. I'm like, I want that. I never had that. I never been on vacation before, other than like once when I was like 10 with my grandparents. I haven't had a lot of luxury in my life, so I was like, I can go that route, or I can do this thing. And I know I'm a hard worker. I know I have what it takes. I know I'm ethical. I know all these different factors. So I also know this is going to be a good journey for me. Ignore everyone was telling you can't do it. And again, what also is when you're listening to other people, you have to listen within reason, because you don't want to get into the habit of I don't want to listen to anyone. You want to get in the habit of who I'm listening to, what they're saying, making logical, non-emotional, logical sense with what I'm thinking too. They both somewhat correlate in some way. And I was luckily able to navigate and go, teachers, goodbye. Some friends, goodbye. Or I'm going to be friends to you, but I'm not going to listen to you. Some family, I'm not going to listen to you. And just focus on this one thing I want to do. How do I become amazing at this? How do I become the best at it? Eliminate distractions and just keep on the same solid path. And don't deviate from it too much, because the distractions are often very nice and good distractions, and they can keep you from getting shit done.
Yeah, that's just life in general, but it's we could go on and on about this. We haven't started talking about your journey. We're already 22 minutes into this.
I know.
So let's talk about your journey a little bit. Where you started at in what you're doing, and then we'll kind of go back and see what we can touch on.
Sounds good. So I'll give you kind of how I got started. As you say, I'm a second generation digital marketer. I got started when I was around 13 years old. Also a variable in that, very different than most people. So my family around that time, it's within 2 year span, but I say around 13. My dad just claimed bankruptcy. We lost all of our cars were taken away by the repo man. We had to sell our TV. We were living in someone else's basement in welfare apartments. We had next to nothing. And slowly, of course, my dad and mom were working, and they started getting our family out of that situation, thank God. And also during that time, my dad also turned to digital marketing, my golden grail. So I slowly, like I said, started getting into it, and you know, I saw the lifestyle, and for me, and even now, it's. I always thought that I would be able to accomplish and do great things, but I didn't know that the experiences you can have were so like beyond what I was used to. Because when for example, there's a story that my older brother said that like when we were really broke, like three of us used to share one bag of ramen. Like we didn't have much. Going to, I think what really opened my eyes, and I think these experiences help open a lot of people's eyes. And the more you can try to get out of what you're in, even if it's momentarily, you'll make the mental leap that will help you take the physical leap with money or with anything. Around the age of 18. So I was running my businesses after 13 I started dabbling. 14, 15, 16, I started getting more and more into it, deciding, no, I really want to master this, and I'm only going to do this. Around 17, 18, the guy who gave me this award and this watch, actually, thank you, Joel Terrian. He we were the top. I think we were the second best affiliate in this company. We're great affiliate marketers. And he flew all the top, I think 10 or 20 affiliates to a private. This was my. It was such an amazing experience. It was the best week of my life. Still, we were flown to a private mansion in Cabo San Lucas, completely paid for, all food, all drinks, anything you want. And we were served. Like I've never been served in my life, like actually served. So I had that experience, and it was this amazing, beautiful mansion overlooking the sea on a mountainside. They had an infinity pool going into or infinity hot tub going into the infinity pool going over the ocean. It was just, it felt fake. And I think that, just a little side thing, I think that at any point anyone wants to make a change in their life, they need to try to get some outside experience to get them to actually go, okay, wow, it's a shocking, numbing, like this is actually possible. I can do this. There's something else out there that I can actually experience that I've never had before. So after that experience, kind of everything went up. I've been doing very successful since then. I run my affiliate marketing business, SEO, started moving to consulting. And then as I've gotten more close, I'm 24 now, I'm getting old. um, I love to say that because I'm always so young. Everyone's like, you're always so young, and I love it, which is good. I'm going to keep on to it until I get older. Around 22, 23, 24, I'm like, I've been in the affiliate marketing / network marketing world. I want to transition into what I would call more serious business, I guess. Getting into SEO, getting consulting. And as the years have gone by, I've taken it more seriously. Now it's absolutely consumed my everyday 24/7. And I absolutely love it. Real quickly, I'll go back to, I don't mean to keep
No
talking.
worries.
There's the second phase that, again, was almost, I was very broke too. Around 18, around the same time I went on that vacation, I went out to that vacation, obviously spent money, and I had a girlfriend at the time too. Um, and I was spending money on her, and I was paying all the bills and stuff. I moved on my own, and I was like, well, I looked at my bank one day. I think I was between like 50 and $100. Like, I'm like, oh, I am back to numero uno, square one. Something's got to change. Which then, as you're saying, because I was comfortable. I was still obviously having more expenses that I could manage, but I was just kind of comfortable where I was at. I'm kind of doing business stuff. I decided I need to do more. So I took up every freelancing / any kind of online work I could take. I don't care how well or how poorly it paid. I had to get myself out of that situation because in my mind, I'm like, I'm going right back to what my family got out of. And I ain't ever going back to that again. So that's just another kind of the second instance where I was like, this is not enjoyable. I've ran the experiment of having money and not having money. The not having one is not as enjoyable.
So how long did you have to do that before you got yourself back into a better financial situation?
It was probably for actually like a year or two, because again, especially with the girlfriend and everything else going on, I was so distracted. I need to focus on my woman at the time. I need to focus on this. I'm focusing on all these different things. I was so still not honed down on what I needed to do that I wasn't doing the things in business that actually generate money, that actually generate revenue, leads, customers. I wasn't optimizing anything either. So probably a year or two, I finally buckled down, stopped going out as much, stopped spending as much time doing just going out to eat. Like, I need to actually, instead of going out to eat every single day and spending 2 or 3 hours doing that and hanging out with friends, I need to just work on my business. So that was a stressful but necessary learning curve as well.
I'm with you because I get in my coaching side, on my for-profit side, I get
Mm-hmm.
doctors, attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
pilots that are broke,
Nice.
and they don't
Really?
understand. Oh yeah, they don't understand why. It's, oh God, all day, twice on Sundays. It's just, it never stops. I mean, they don't understand why they're broke. I'm making $500,000. Why am I broke? And the first question I ask is, have you put a budget together? And they talk to me like I've got 6 heads. And I'm like, okay. I said, I know,
Yeah.
I'm with you because I'm the type of person that would not want a budget. But when I had my second business fail, I was strapped with a lot of debt and I wasn't going to file
Right.
bankruptcy because I was in the financial world and I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
file. Otherwise I'd be unemployed. So I had to find a
Right.
way to make it work. So during that whole process, out of that issues and man, just a lot of sleepless nights, I
Yeah.
learned how, one, to budget better, and two, how to better negotiate my debt down, which I already
Mm-hmm.
did already because I was in collections. I was running call centers in collections, but I found other ways to
Right.
do it. But the biggest thing was when I first started going through a budget, I was spending almost $400 a week just on food and going out. That's that's
Food.
1600 dollars
Food's a
a month.
killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say budgeting is just in life and in business. Both is that's something I've also gotten much better at, and it's much more freeing. And it's weird because budgeting almost gets like a oh, you're budgeting, or you're watching what you which I don't know why.
It's a
This
negative
is like
word. It's a
right, and it
four-letter
should
word.
because I think also too, like when I was growing up, like I said, I never experienced like a finer life or even just like a decent like living. Um, So I always grew up thinking I also needed all of this other stuff. Like I want the largest mansion possible. I want, all this different stuff. And then I realized, one, through getting some more of it, that it's not as fulfilling as you think it is. And I think that's what people are chasing in either money or through things what they want and experience. And that's what they actually should be spending their money on, is getting experience with their family, with their friends, with the things that actually are much more meaningful. And that's what I discovered is
They're chasing the Joneses is what they're doing.
they're
So
chasing
they're
the
chasing the
Joneses.
Joneses that are broke, that are living to pay their lenders on a monthly basis. Man, you're light years ahead for your age group, because
I know.
there's struggles there, because they're all looking out for that instant gratification, and at the end of the month they don't understand why they're broke as a joke, living paycheck to paycheck, making $250,000 a year. I just read a
Yeah.
study today from Lending Club, which not my favorite place because they're astronomical. They're freaking got problems. But anyhow, 1/3, so over 30% of households making $250,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck right now. A third.
Right. It's like, how is that
Because they're
possible?
strapped with debt. I mean, you've got credit
Right.
card debt, you got personal loans, you got student loans, you got car payments, you've got
You got the
you got a
toys.
boat payment. You,
Oh, payment.
you've
I
got
say
every
in
payment under the sun to deal with, and you don't
yeah.
realize that, dude, if you're financially free and you let go of all those payments and just pay them off and live to pay by cash, you can buy
Right.
all those things. It's just not going to be tomorrow. You got to wait a while, and it'll
Right,
work
right, and
out.
you'll enjoy them more because you're not constantly worrying about the debt and constantly worrying about the
Correct.
interest and all that stuff. And that's actually very similar to, we have miners in Minnesota. We're one of the biggest steel and iron ore capital of the world, basically one of them. And the miners, when I was growing up, you're always like, the miners always had money, but they were always working 40, 60, 80 hours a week. Another thing too about miners is they always had five toys. They had a boat, they had a RV, they had a wheeler, you name it. And you're like, well, why do they work so much? And again, miners were also usually always kind of pissed off, always kind of grumpy. Not really, like they had money, but they weren't ever really happy. Is because they were so consumed with that type of stuff. And then the people who were watching that were also so consumed with that type of stuff. They did the same exact things, just on a lower scale that they could afford, but not afford, but they thought they could afford.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door of, and I've tried telling this to them. A quick story. My mother, bless her heart, when I was starting to make more money and stuff, people were concerned because at the time I had a really junky car. I even at one time pickaxed my brake line for my car because I was trying to get it out of the snow. But yeah, so I had this car, really junky car. It was like a 2003. This is only like 3 years ago. I had a 2003 a Chevy Malibu. It drove me to Texas and back, so it wasn't that bad. It was pretty nice. It was just junky car, but people were like, "John, you're making money. Why don't you get a new car?" And I was like, "Why?" They're like, "Well, look at it." I'm like, "Yeah, but it drove me to Texas and back. It gets me where I need to go. I'm not doing all this traveling. I barely leave home because I work from home, and if I'm flying somewhere, I'm not driving." Um, yeah, it's unfortunate to me now that I'm where I'm at mentally. When I see people like looking at, oh, this person has this car, this person has this vehicle. Cool, good for them. That's
And
great.
they've got an
But
$800 car payment.
yeah, they have an $800 or even more car payment, and they can't afford to pay it or won't because they have so many different vehicles and things they have, and it's just. I think it's fortunately for me. I think one with my upbringing with my parents. My parents, I had immaculate parents. I could not have asked for better parents. Thank God, like really, thank God.
That's a
But
good
also
thing, because a
too,
lot of people don't have great parents. So
right?
that's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, right. I had a rough background, but really amazing parents. And I also think, fortunately, my mind was just wired since I've been very small to entirely think for myself. Like a lot of times I didn't even listen to my parents because I was so thinking of my own idea or way to do things. Um, I realized very early on, and I try to like replicate this when I talk to other people and when I am on podcasts or speaking to anyone in any format. Like I was lucky that I had the mental break to think for myself. I should learn how to develop myself. Like that's so never done by anyone. It's why self development is a thing. While people hate on self development, it's why it's a thing because no one does it.
Correct.
And it's freaking crazy. Like making yourself better is that is it cringy to make yourself a better person? It's crazy.
And think differently than everyone else, because God forbid you
Right.
do.
God forbid people. That's another thing too. Like, for example, it's so crazy. Again, I am a proponent, and that's why I try to be the best person I can be and help others do that because I want to replicate it throughout the world. But it's so weird thinking too. Another quick story. When I was in high school, like I would actually talk to teachers. Like, actually, I don't know if you did it back then, but I would actually conversate. And like, I was friends with the teachers, and my friends and different people would be like, "Why are you talking to the teacher? That's so strange." I'm like, they're a human being, and they're actually kind of interesting if you actually get to know them. They're not just a teacher; they're like a person.
Yeah.
People. So it's just crazy how people are crazy. One thing I am 100% certain of in life is people are crazy, and you just have to do your best when you're at a place where you can. You have to do your best to see some of the cracks that people have to try to influence them for the better, or just open up an opportunity for them to think. To, like you're saying, just to think a
To
little bit
think.
about this for
Yes.
yourself. Just think.
And we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole and we
I
can go
know.
there, but school doesn't teach you to think. School
No.
thinks it teaches you to show up. You go to
Yeah.
recess, you go to lunch, you go to break, and you go home. And maybe in between, we'll teach you a little bit of English. We'll teach you some spelling. We'll teach you some history, maybe some math, but we won't teach you anything about real life math.
Like
Um,
taxes.
yeah. And then you wonder why we have such a struggle with people today
Right.
making their budgets and being able to survive on what they're making. There's
Right.
$250,000. And I thought about that $250,000. So you're making over 20,000 gross a month and
Yep.
you can't live on that.
But
So
yet, when I was still broke, what I thought was broke, making 30,000 a year, I was 30,000 or $30,000 a year at the very beginning of the business. I was still traveling and somewhat enjoying life, and not that broke, which is
mind-boggling. So you weren't out spending trying to keep up with the Joneses, and that's one of the biggest messages that I try to get out there when I do any type of financial coaching or if I can get out and speak, in front of people is if you want something, go get it, but do it right. Don't put it on credit because ultimately it's going to weigh you down. It's going to kill your life.
right,
And then you are
right.
not going to enjoy the experiences of life. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're guaranteed for
Right.
right now. And in 2 minutes from today, or 2 minutes from now, we might not be. So why not
Right.
live for the now and figure out how to get there and enjoy the ride and not have to live and be that person that is focused on the money all the time. Because if it's all about money, it's never going to work. And I'm going to wrap this part up.
You're good.
People, I got to ask you the question: what's more valuable, money or time?
Time, because time gives you experience.
Hallelujah! You're
Time,
you're even more rare from your generation because most individuals that come on in your generation say money, and then I tell them, hey, guess what? I can go file bankruptcy, I can go broke, and I can always earn the money back, but I can never get the time back that's gone.
right.
I'm only
Yeah,
guaranteed right now, and that's it. So how can time not be your most valuable asset in your life?
right, and that's why everyone ever who's above the age of 40, what's the number one thing they wish they had? More time to go
More
back and
time.
what? To make different decisions and more
Correct.
time just to experience life. And that's something that I always advocate too. We can wrap this section or whatever. I also advocate more heavily if you're going to spend money on something, spend it on sure some small things that you enjoy. Like I don't know why I love jewelry. Like I got my bling, I got my bling, I got my bling. Don't know why I like it, so I spend a little bit, not too much, but I have stuff I like. But mostly spend your money on experiences because those are the things you remember. Like when I'm going to bed, and I don't think about anything I've ever bought ever, ever. I only think about times I have my friends, times I have my family, bad times, good. That's all I think about is experiences I had. And as you age, which thankfully, again, I thank God I think like I do so early. is down the line, that's all you are going to care about is the times and experiences you've had. No, take a look at also like the richest people. This is commonly said too, but take a look at the richest people in the world. A lot of them also don't like. How does Elon Musk dress? How does
Just basic.
Warren?
He doesn't
Right? How does
dress nothing crazy.
nothing? How does Warren Buffett dress? And what do they do? Like I saw a thing where Elon, I think it was like a couple of years ago, was still sleeping on the floor at the factory. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
because he doesn't care, and also because those things you care about, those items and the things you're going for, those will quickly lose any value they have to you. Like now that I have money, what I would consider at least decent money, money means literally nothing other than it gets me the freedom to get those experiences I want.
And it takes care of your four walls. People don't realize how thankful you need to be is have a roof over your head, be able to pay your bills, food on your
Food.
table, clothes on your back. You get those four walls taken care of. Everything after that is gravy. And it is
Right.
just amazing how many people throw in there, oh, I've got to get my car note. I've got to get my boat taken care of. I got to go my shopping spree. I can't
Right.
miss that. And I
Okay,
got to go
so
get my latte.
can I throw in something quick? I had an
Yeah.
argument with my friend, a really good friend of mine. We're still obviously really good friends. But he was talking about, because sometimes in my friend group, we'll talk about, even though they're my age, we'll talk about really serious stuff, like all types of topics. And one of the things we were talking about was like, a lot of my friends think that we, as the United States, is like going on a downward trend. It's like right now, like the economy's collapsing. Sure thing, that's 100% true. But like this is like before the pandemic and stuff. They're like, the United States isn't really that great. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, my friend's like, well, I live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, well, what do you buy? Because he really loves comics. He goes, well, I buy a lot of comics. I'm like, okay, well, how much money more would you have a month if you didn't get those? Well, X, Y, Z. I'm like, well, what kind of phone do you have? Well, I have the newest phone. Okay, I started stacking the different things that he was buying and spending money on. And I'm like, I think it's another thing too, just in general, is people don't realize if you are in the United States or any normal country, like first world country, you are beyond blessed. Like
Yes,
having a phone is a blessing.
it is.
Having a fridge. There's countries where they don't have fridges. Having a
Yeah.
fridge is a blessing. I think that's, as the saying goes, I'm going to butcher this really bad. I think it's good times create easy men. Easy men create hard times. And it's like a cycle of where, because we've gotten so comfortable, because we're so full of distractions, we have no
Oh, yeah.
focus. All the things we talked about, they all correlate in some way or another. People have become exceedingly soft, and they need to realize that even if you're doing bad, you're alive. If you don't have a major health issue, you have money to feed yourself. You're blessed. Do something with it.
Yes, and that's what you do, and that's what you do to grow and expand. I mean, failure is your tuition. I'm going to keep on saying this till the cows come home.
I love the saying.
I was editing his video today, and I listened to it like 4 times. I'm like, man, that is powerful, and it's I. I'm going to say this now. I want to really have you back on again because we've talked
Thank
about a
you.
lot of stuff.
I know.
And it's been a healthy conversation. But we got to wrap it up. But it's been great to have you on. It's refreshing to hear that you are taking a different journey on life, and you're open to free thinking and making sure that you put yourself in the right position, but also learning from your mistakes and not saying, okay, I screwed up and that's it. You're growing, and that's huge. And that's
Thank you.
the listeners of this podcast. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to get out of that change. They think change is a 4-letter word. They want to get into that new world, but they don't know how. And your story is very powerful.
Thank you. Can I leave it off with two
Sure.
quotes?
Go for it.
I have two. One of them's famous. Justin Timberlake's wife retweeted it, but she didn't use my name. She put unknown, which is such bullshit. Anyways, true story. There's two quotes I have that are really good. I like them. One is aspire for progress, hunger for success, and strive for greatness, which obviously has its meaning. Always move forward.
Always moving forward. Don't be a camper in life. Don't be comfortable. And that's huge. And we can definitely have some more conversations. So I'd love to, circle back around and get you back on at a later date.
Sounds amazing to me. Real quick, in my second quote, I'll go really quick. Your attitude is not defined by your life. Your life is defined by your attitude. Would you think about that for a while?
Strong.
Strong. Good. I appreciate you having me on so much. All the listeners, I hope to talk to you again very soon.
How
Have a
can
great
John,
day.
before you go, if anybody wants to talk to you about any of your services, what's the best place to get a hold of you? I'll also put in the show notes so they can link there too.
For sure. Literally, if you want to learn about business, financials, marketing, sales, anything there's personal development too, follow me on YouTube. It's the best thing you can do. Go to youtube.com. I think it's /C/John Weberg, or just look up John Weberg on YouTube. Subscribe, follow me, hit the notification bell. I truly am someone who cares about giving to other people, helping other people, being them for them. I just give nonstop value and actually actionable good stuff on there. And that's the best way to work with me. Or just go to johnweberg.com and play around on that site and see what you can find.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a great conversation. Your journey is great. Your story's great. And we definitely need to have you come back on.
I will be back. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Take care.